Hi, my name is Tiffany Ploehn. I am the Avian Care Manager for the National Eagle Center, and today we are at a beach nearby the National Eagle Center here in lovely Wabasha, Minnesota. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. And so again, my name is Tiffany Ploehn. I'm the Avian Care Manager for the National Eagle Center, and that basically means that I'm responsible for anything and everything relating to our birds. And we get asked a lot at the National Eagle Center, how on earth did we get to the position that we're in? How did we get our jobs? Because we always like to joke and say that career day, you never saw the person in the corner holding, an eagle. And so this is definitely a unique position to be in, and I love every second of it. But how I got my start was that I actually was a part of a mentorship program for my school. And so I was part of a program called Mentor Connection. By the way, I am a born and raised Minnesotan, so I grew up in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. And I went to a school that didn't have the best funding. It was an inner city school. And so they had this mentorship program to help connect kids to possible mentors in a career field that they were interested in. And so I ended up getting connected to the Raptor Center, and specifically Gail Buell, who is still today one of my mentors. She means a lot to me. And so when I was part of that program, I basically was taken out of school for a certain hour or for part of the day and meant to do something productive. So I went to the Raptor Center at the University of Minnesota. And while I was there, I was basically supposed to be there for about 3 months doing things that you kind of do for an internship, and I didn't leave for 8 years. I just loved it. And during my time there, I started kind of in that mentorship internship role. I then became a volunteer. I worked as a staff member after that. I worked in both the rehab area as well as in their education area with their education birds, which is where my passion really started. During that time, I also went to the University of Minnesota, where I got my degree in conservation biology in wildlife biology with an emphasis in conservation. And so I went and got my bachelor's degree of science from the University of Minnesota. And then after kind of my time, or during my time still at the Raptor Center, I also was a naturalist at different places. I was a dog trainer for a short time. I then was offered a position out in Colorado for Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. So I went and I became an educator out there. I also worked for Denver Zoo during that time. And then while I was out there, I was actually offered the position to come back to Minnesota and come to the National Eagle Center and work with their eagles here. And it's just amazing. How could I turn that down? And so I turned and came back to Minnesota, and that's where I've been now for about 3 years. And so with my job, like I said, pretty much I am responsible for anything and everything relating to our birds and our eagles. And so some challenges that come with that is the fact that birds are unpredictable. Eagles are raptors, they're non-social, they're birds of prey, they're apex predators. All these things give different layers to kind of the challenge of every day of trying to make sure that they are as happy and healthy as possible, which is of course my goal. And something too is the fact that we work with all permanently injured birds. All of our birds have some sort of injury that prevents them from surviving out in the wild. We are not a rehab center ourselves. All of our birds were brought to rehab centers, found they couldn't survive, and that's when we took them in, and we are their permanent home now. But with them all having not only permanent injuries, but the fact they all have different permanent injuries, it does mean that we have a bit more challenge to it, but it also makes my job so much better, because that means that I get to have those moments where things work and things make sense and they click, and it's not just going to make life easier for me, but much more importantly, it's going to make life way easier for that bird or that individual, and that means a lot. And in fact, one of my greatest accomplishments at the National Eagle Center was one of our eagles, Columbia. And so you guys have heard us talk about Columbia quite a bit. And Columbia is our one of our older residents. She is 19 years old now, and she unfortunately has permanent brain damage due to lead poisoning. But on top of that, she actually was hit by a car, and she suffered a severe right wing injury, and so she cannot fly as well. So with that brain injury, it means that understanding kind of what we're doing and things that we're asking of her may not come as easily as it does to our other birds. Something too is that she has some issues with her feet being able to grip and hold on to things. And when I first came to the National Eagle Center, she was a bird that, for one, was really underweight. They couldn't figure out how to get her to gain weight. It was difficult to understand kind of what she was saying to us and for us to understand, her. And so my pretty much biggest accomplishment that I'll tell people is that I went to the vet about a year after being there. Of course, our birds go up to the University of Minnesota Raptor Center. They are veterinarians, and she went up there, and the vet actually told me she was fat. And that was probably one of the best moments ever was being told that she had gained a bit too much weight, that I was able to make her feel so comfortable that she was able to gain a lot of weight and not only become healthy, but maybe a little too healthy. That was one of the best things ever. Some things that I've also been able to accomplish since my time here at the National Eagle Center is I was actually able to present at IAATE and that conference in 2019 in Florida, and so I was able to present actually my paper on Latch, one of our eagles. And so Latch is our immature bald eagle. He is 4 years old this year, so he is still immature. He doesn't get that full white head and tail until next year or two, but he's getting there. And I was able to present a paper on him. All of our birds get choice in everything they do, and a big portion of that is the fact that I want the birds to feel empowered. I always say they didn't choose to be injured, they didn't choose to go to rehab, they didn't choose to come to the National Eagle Center, and they definitely didn't choose to work with me. So anytime I can give them a choice, I want to. And so Latch was one of those where we wanted to work with him and give him everything that he needed, and we fully trained him with positive reinforcement and choice. And so being able to talk about his story and some of the difficulties with that, but also the triumphs with it is really amazing. And he, as many of you may know, he is one of our most successful program and outreach birds today, which is just incredible. I really enjoy my time at the National Eagle Center, and probably the thing that I love the most about it is the people. I know that sounds so kind of cliche, but it really is. I've worked at really amazing places and I've worked with incredible people. I will always be thankful for Gail Buell and Mike Billington and anyone who has ever spent the time to kind of teach me anything that I need to know, because I got that mentorship again while I was in high school. I was only 17 years old when I started working with raptors and birds of prey. And so being able to stand here today and say that I've been doing this for 12 years is pretty amazing, and the people that I get to work with every single day at the National Eagle Center make it worth it. These birds are incredible, but to see the passion that comes with the people that are at the National Eagle Center is just something that you really can't see anywhere else. And that's really why, honestly, I feel like people should support the National Eagle Center. I know it's asking a lot, and I know people have so many other priorities, but I hope that you can find a place to find something special just like I found at the National Eagle Center. I've worked at incredible places, including Giant Mountain Zoo, which is ranked the number 13th zoo in the world by AZA standards, which is pretty amazing. And it was incredible. I loved every second of it, but it's nothing compared to this. The National Eagle Center has so many people that just have so much passion that you really can't resist it. And the way that we want to make sure that the whole world knows about eagles, bald eagles, their story, and everything to do with them is something that's really incredible. There's a lot of facilities that even though they may have eagles, a lot of times they don't get the opportunity to do the things that our birds get to do. And so it's really amazing to be able to share that with the world, and I really, really hope that you'll consider accomplishing that goal with us. And so I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully you learned a little something from me, and hopefully maybe I inspired you too.